I'm Lillian McCullough, and welcome to Teen Talk. I have with me today Andrew Ware.
Hi.
Andrew, would you like to share your story?
Yeah, so I'm a senior at Montoursville High School. I'm pretty involved in like theater and like choir, pretty heavily involved in most things. I am a gay man in a very conservative and rural area, which is it has its challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess I came out around, well, I didn't really grasp the way I was until maybe 12 years old. Like until then I was just like effeminate and like I had effeminate qualities and tendencies and behaviors. And then like I had a few friends in like 8th grade that like told me what that like being gay meant, and I was like, oh wait, that's me. But like I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. Like I'd experienced bullying because of it, but I didn't really know what the bullying was caused by. I don't really know what I was thinking in middle school. But like I guess I just wasn't cognizant of like what was really like going on with me, and like I wasn't really socially aware. But I had like friends that like we went through the phase that like a lot of gay people go through, where like they made it their whole personality, and like that's like rainbow washed everything we owned. And like, not to say that rainbows are bad, but like it doesn't need to be everything. Sorry, that sounded really homophobic.
It's okay.
I didn't need to be like that, but like but yeah, so like 8th grade, that was when I like came out. I didn't really come out in a very public way. People kind of just knew.
Okay.
I told my mom, and she was like, I thought we both knew. Like I didn't think there was anything. I was like, oh, you thought. And then she did end up telling my stepdad without like outing me to him, and then outing me to my sister without my permission, which was really kind of hurtful, but like what can you do? And then yeah, I guess I just embraced like being flamboyant. I didn't really care what people thought. Well, that was when I was around my friends. When I was around my friends, I thought it was like on top of the world. Like and then like, but like when I was by myself, like I was flooded with anxiety. I like was so scared what people would think of me. Like I tried to be I like made very conscious efforts to be masculine, like not in my activities. Like I was a competitive dancer for 10 plus years. I've always been involved in theater and musicals and choir, band, anything with the arts. I have a crocheting business, for God's sakes. Like I'm always doing something artistic. But like I tried in my mannerisms to become more masculine. I tried to deepen my voice. I tried but that's not me. And so, yeah, it wasn't until 8th grade that I became very aware of the bullying that was going on. 8th grade is when I started getting notes in my locker, back when we still used lockers. I started getting notes in my locker pretty frequently. Not frequently, I'd say it happened a few times. And those notes would range from "you look gay today" to "kill yourself, no one wants you on this planet, blah 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 blah, insert F slur here." And I would get those notes, and like as a 12-year-old, hearing that people want you to kill yourself for something you can't control, you weren't even really cognizant of until like you got those notes. And like it's just, it hurts.
Mhm.
And like, instead of going to people, I internalized
Mhm.
what those notes said, and I just threw them away. I didn't keep them. I didn't bring them to a trusted adult, which I should have. I just didn't want to make it real and
Mhm.
make it seem like it had power over me. I did eventually report it to an adult. But yeah, the school couldn't do much because
Mhm.
my locker was in a dead zone, or with the cameras or something. I can't really remember.
Mhm.
But that's not the school's fault.
Mhm.
And then when we transitioned to high school, the locker like threats, they went down. They died down a bit, because we don't really use
Mhm.
lockers in the high school. And then during sophomore year, when I had I started strength training, I started getting notes in my backpack when my backpack was unattended to in a locker room without cameras. And the notes, I didn't get any notes telling me to verbatim kill myself,
Mhm.
but like it was the comments like, you look like a F slur
Mhm.
today, or like calling me a snowflake fairy. I would hear that in the hallway. I still hear it in the hallway all the time. Like, I'm taking my senior year, like this year, as a chance to, honestly, I do not care what people think anymore.
Mhm.
They can think whatever they want. I'm not gonna see you after I graduate, so like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna do me. And so I've started with like acrylics, and like, just, I'm not trying to make my voice an affectation or like more masculine. This is how I am, and if
Mhm.
you have a problem, that's your problem, and you need to sort that out because that's your insecurity. But yeah, the bullying has died down, or maybe I just stopped noticing it. But yeah, I haven't gotten a note since junior year, last year. And again, it's so hard to get these notes. I think out of like all of them, I've maybe turned in 2, and that's my fault. But I mean, I haven't really let it get to me. There's been some personal, like, it did make me like experience suicidal ideation, on and off frequently from 8th grade to this summer, honestly. And there's been many other factors into that, but like a big one was like acceptance. And another thing on top of acceptance is like, because I grew up in like the dance world, where like personal image and like, I don't know, like beauty and personal and like acceptance and personal image are so like ingrained in that place, or in that
like it's a stereotype. Like you have to look a certain way.
Right. You have to eat a certain way, you have to look a certain way. Like, I started putting my personal image like above how it was being treated. Like, I just put my personal image, like, I like became very like cognizant of my personal image. And another like issue with dance that like occurred was the eating culture surrounding dance. I know that wasn't part of the episode, but like I experienced
That's okay.
it.
It's whatever.
And you mentioned wanting to talk about that in another episode, or not episode, but like before. Another thing that happened with dance was the eating culture surrounding it. I was not diagnosed anorexic, but like throughout middle school and like early freshman year, I wouldn't eat, or I would not eat, and then I would binge eat because I hadn't eaten, and that just created a whole issue with like hormones and self-image, and it really made me like, on top of being viscerally bullied in the hallways and in like private, like it just made high school and everywhere I went a very difficult place to be. And like, I found help, and I realized that like that's not okay, and like it breaks my heart every time I hear like if one of my friends is like struggling with that. Like it just breaks my heart because I know how difficult it is to get out of that mindset.
What would you say to someone who is like struggling in like specifically the dance community, because you've been a part of that for so long, that is struggling with trying to fit into the quote unquote normal stereotype of the perfect body?
You don't need to be like, you don't need to look a certain way to be healthy, and you don't need to like you can be a good dancer without having all the tricks, without having all of the without having the most skinny waist. Like you can be an amazing mover, and amazing, like dance is not tricks, that's gymnastics. You can be an amazing dancer through movement, and I think that also can be incorporated into others other sports. Like you don't have to be the biggest guy on the football team to be able to like be a decent player, a good, like maybe even MVP. I don't know. That's also not my place.
Right.
But like it goes hand in like with that juxtaposition of dance and football. Like we both experience similar traumas in the eating community, so it's frustrating when I'm subjected to certain like conditions by people associated with like football or like more masculine activities like wrestling or FFA. Like that's like inherently masculine dominated places, and so even though we struggle with the same, or maybe struggle with the same traumas like poor eating culture, especially with wrestling, and like I don't know, I just feel like there's shared experiences that it doesn't make sense to like stigmatize.
We should be able to like look at each other and not say, well, mine is worse than yours, because you don't know that.
Right.
And you should be able to just talk to each other about things and not put each other down for other things.
Right. I don't understand why people have to be so exclusive about like, maybe you did put in more work. Then you should be recognized individually. You shouldn't have to just make other sports like less than. Yeah. And
another thing you mentioned was theater was very impactful to your life. What would you say is something, did theater help you come out of your shell more, or did it like help your mental health through like other people?
It definitely, I think both. Like the people definitely have been uplifting at points, and like it's just like any other clique or group. Like there's going to be people who uplift you, there's going to be people who put you down. That comes with anything. But I think the environment has definitely improved my personal image and how I see myself. I've also done like shows at the Community Theater League here in in Williamsport, as well as high school theater, and they're actually very similar with how they've helped me personally. At the high school, though, I am the only out gay person, which makes it difficult at times. People in the theater, like, theater has a stigma around it that, like, all the guys are gay and all the girls have crushes on the guys. It's not true. Montour's an example. I'm the only gay man in the theater department that's out, and we have a substantial amount of guys, and yet I still get comments in our group that say, like, they just love to comment on my sexuality. Like, I'm not bringing it up, but you're showing me a video about like some like straight couple, and you're like, you'll never experience that. Excuse me?
Mm.
Okay, that's a really weird comment to make. Why are you talking about that?
Right.
Talking to me like that? And it's just like people who claim to be to be an ally have normalized making sexual comments like that, or comments about my sexuality like that, and I'm just really, it's weird. I don't know why you care. I'm not, like, if I bring it up, that's fine. I probably won't. But like, if the, like, maybe if the joke's punchline is that he's gay, that's weird. But unless you're gay, why are you you don't, that's just weird.
And it doesn't like need to be brought up.
Right. It's not helpful.
It doesn't matter who like you're attracted to. You're gonna be the same person, like before and after you came out.
Exactly.
And I mean, I've met you after you came out in middle school, and that's all I've known you as. If you were to, I don't know, never tell me that you came out today, I wouldn't think of you differently. Like, I know you as like the good dancer, bubbly, fun personality that I've always known you as. And I think that's something that people need to realize, is some people might, I know that I cope through comedy, like that's how I joke around about stuff, but at some point people need to understand that there's a point where you go too far, and by like bringing it out for no reason at all, like, oh, he's gay, like it doesn't matter. Like, you can laugh at the same stuff, you can joke about stuff. And like the thing with theater, we have football players on our cast list, we have dancers in our cast list, we have people that want to go to college for music, we have people that want to go to college to be doctors. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you just need to find a place where you fit. And there doesn't need to be like a, oh, well, if they're in this group, then they're gay. If they're in this group, then they're straight. Like, it doesn't matter.
There's no correlation. I don't understand where this stereotype of being gay comes from. And just stereotypes in general are harmful. Like, I'm so glad we have football players in our cast now, because I have been able to break the stereotype that all of them act the same, or they'll immediately hate me because of the way I am. And no, I've been able to find common ground. I will say another thing about like coping with how people will see me in just everyday life is I have not idolized, but like I've seen certain behaviors portrayed in the media, like about gay men, and I have created, in the past, I've created a like persona where like I try to act like them. Like, I used to think it was endearing and cute to be catty and mean, and I got into a habit of crap talking people and thinking that's okay, and it's really not. And I had to learn the hard way that behavior is harmful. And I'm not blaming that on my sexuality. Like, it's just certain behaviors have been normalized by media. Behaviors are learned through previous friends. Also, I thought it was like, I don't know. It's just, it's not constructive, and it definitely was enhanced by like my personal experience with crap talking and the other like behaviors. They were definitely enhanced by the idea of a gay man, or like what media tries to portray gay people as mean, egotistical, which I can be egotistical, I will say, but mean, egotistical, and they try to make it seem funny, and then that can be very harmful for someone growing up seeing the only queer representation being like, if you've seen Jack on Will and Grace, like he's a gay man and he's proudly a gay man, but he's not nice, and like it's very harmful for someone growing up looking for representation, and that's very similar for all minority representation. trying to find representation in TV, and then having it be one
One specific way.
yeah, it's like I idolized that because I thought people would find it endearing because people on Will and Grace thought it was endearing to see Jack that act like that. I'm not saying Jack is the only one, but that's what came to my brain. And then people don't. Like, it's just there's just so many stigmas and stereotypes that have been associated with being gay, being in theater, being in dance, being in football, and like the people are their own individuals. They are not defined by what they participate in. And I just think that what I like the groups I found have definitely helped me see that and definitely helped me grow as a person.
So with growing up in a school that obviously has not been the most supporting, what would you, back when you didn't feel like you could share like the death threats, like what would you have liked to see, like what would you like to tell your younger self now as you are sitting here? What would you tell your younger self to do in that time?
Rely on the people around you. People can be mean. People will not always have your best intentions at heart. I don't want to sound like a cliche, but like you can't trust everyone in your life. You also can't put others down when you're hurting, and like you need to seek out help. You can't do everything on your own. Yeah, don't hurt people. That's all. I've always believed that. And to avoid being someone to continue that cycle, seek out help. And I think it took me way too long to realize that. Like, I created such a bad reputation for myself in 8th grade, freshman and sophomore year. And I wouldn't be even aware of my like tendencies to be hateful. And then people would confront me afterwards, like after I was mean, and they would be like, "Why are you talking about me? Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, I don't even remember doing that, or I wasn't cognizant that I was doing something, like I didn't mean it in a bad way, but things just came out, and I'm like, oh. So like, just be aware that the things you say, you be aware of what you say.
Yeah. So when you were getting like the threats and stuff like that, and you went to tell someone, was there anything that they said, like whether that be like a counselor, or whether that be like the principal, said to you that stuck out, good or bad, about what they did about the situation?
Yeah. I liked that they actually, they genuinely cared, that like they attempted to try to help the situation. I also believe that not enough was done because it still continued to happen up until like the end of last year. I'm not sure what they needed to do, but it just, I felt so hopeless for a very long time because I thought not enough was being done. And now I realize that's not the school's fault, but in the moment it like really stung that like nothing was being fixed. I'd say less like the words of the people telling me like it's okay, like you're like don't listen to the haters, like that stuff, like it didn't really have any real effect on me. I only heard the words of, he's a snowflake, he's a sissy, no one's gonna love him, he should kill himself. And that's really damaging to the psyche of an 8th grader. Like,
what would you have liked to have done if you could go back and change it? What would you have liked someone to have done for you, or someone to have said to you, that you think would have made it a little bit better?
I'm not sure. I guess I just want to know who did it. Like, I'm not even sure if there's anything I wished would have happened, because I like said before, even though I wanted the school to do more, I don't really know what they should have
Right.
done. Like, they did everything they can. I just, like, it. So I'm not sure if there's anything I would have liked to hear.
So if you could tell the world something to do different to prevent stuff like this from happening, what would you do?
Make sure that your kids and, like, boundaries, and if, like, ethics of communication. We just went over that in my honors communication class. Make sure people know how to communicate respectfully, by listening to what the other person has to say, by engaging in communication, because if you don't have an outlet, or an ability to discuss situations that you don't agree with, nothing's going to be productive. You're not going to be productive, and from my experience, it leads to more hateful propaganda being spread. Like, if you're if I'm having a discussion with you and you don't agree with, like, for example, with the theme of the episode, my sexuality. If I'm trying to tell you, like, about my experiences, and then you're over here and you're just interrupting me, or, like, telling me, like, I'm wrong, and making threats and calling me names, that's not okay. And, like, you need to understand, like, people need to understand the ethics of communication to, because I think if people understand just how much their words affect others, they'll be more hyper aware of, like, of bullying. And also, I think it'll definitely help with empathy, especially if you teach it to, like, younger kids and make it a core, like, thing being taught. It'll definitely help with their empathy, especially with social media, because social media and being glued to your screens, you lose a sense of humanity when you're talking to someone over text.
Right.
So reinforcing, like, empathy in, like, development and for kids, I think that'll definitely prevent bullying. Now, that is to say that that is implemented for everyone, but some people respond to things differently, and that's not something we can control.
So one thing you said was that some people have claimed to be allies but have not, like, shown, like, kindness and not, like, the aspects of being an ally. So what would you say to someone to show that they are truly an ally?
I'd say being an ally is having not only respect for the people in the community, but not trying to appropriate the culture within that community. You see, like, I mean, as a gay man from a small rural community, I haven't seen a lot of the, like, urban environments. Like, I can't speak for the whole community, especially being such an isolated minority at Montoursville. Like, I'm one of 3 off the top of my head of gay people at this school, and I don't really talk to the other ones because we're not very unified. And I'd say, from my experience, I have, hold on. I've definitely brought a lot of queer representation and queer, like, culture from, like, social media and stuff that, like, I've gathered, and, like, I kind of just incorporate it into my day, like, my vernacular. Like, I just think, like, some things people say on TikTok is funny, you know, like, I say it, but, like, it's kind of, sometimes it becomes queer culture, and then I, like, use that in conversation as, like, a joke, like, and then people use those terms against me. People, also, it happens within the community too. Like, I've had other gay people call me a twink, and like, again, there's no need to call people names.
Right.
Like, unless I'm like labeling myself in a conversation as like a twink, like that's not really appropriate. I don't know why you're doing that.
One thing that I've tried to do is like, I learned really what being gay was from being friends with you.
Okay.
Not in a negative way, obviously. I just knew, like, when someone would say like, oh yeah, he's gay, and I was like, what's that? They'd explain it to me, and I never thought of it as a bad thing. I was like, okay, so he likes guys, big deal.
Right.
But then I would hear other people say like bad things about it, and I really wouldn't understand why, but then I found out it's just people don't agree with it.
Right.
And like, that's just such a problem. So I think something like, obviously I'm not gay, but I think something that would be like important is for the people outside to make sure that you, even if you're not there, to protect you, because there's no need for those things to be said. If you don't agree, keep your opinions private. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're the same person.
Right. Being gay is not a personality trait, and I think a lot of people have, like, yes, being effeminate is a personality trait, but being effeminate is also negatively or sometimes positively associated with the LGBTQ plus community, and that's just like, it's trying to fit people in a box when society has already tried to put them in a box, and that group has already seen the negative effects of being put inside box, if that makes sense.
Right.
I'm not sure if that made sense.
I got it.
But like, it's just the stereotypes. There's so many stigmas and stereotypes around being gay. Like if I haven't said it, like, hypothetically, if I didn't say anything in this podcast about being gay, someone would probably see my body language right now, my legs crossed, nails, talking my hands a lot, and they'd say, gay. Like, there shouldn't be a correlation that people like find.
So if you have any advice for especially like younger people who are scared to come out or just don't feel like they'll be accepted, what would you say to them?
Always be cognizant of your safety level, of where you are. If you don't think it's safe to come out, plan accordingly. If it's something you need to communicate, then do that. But safety is so important. And you shouldn't have to feel ashamed of who you are. It took me so long to realize that how I am is never going to change. I can't pray it away. And you shouldn't have to be limited by the people around you. And something that I did before I really came to terms with like who I was, like, I just came out to myself. I like looked at myself and I was like, I labeled it and I was like, you are who you are, and that's totally fine. And I think if it comes to it, reach out to a close friend. If you don't think they'll accept you, are they really a friend? So.
Right. And then I like to end every episode with an inspirational quote from my guest. So what would your inspirational quote be?
Okay. I choose to burn out rather than fade away. It's a Neil Young quote. And like, that's how, like, I definitely would live by that. Like, I'd rather burn out. I don't want to be forgotten.
Right.
And I think that's part of being proud of who you are. If you spend your whole life being negative and not accepting yourself, especially in the context of our episode as well, you're gonna fade away.
Right.
Like, be proud of who you are, and
Just
shine.
be you.
And just be you, baby.
Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you, Andrew.
Yes,
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.